Hello, and welcome back to another episode of I'm Free Now What? Today we're going to be talking about a self-help way to deal with your PTSD symptoms. This video right here is going to be something about narrative/exposure therapy. What you're going to be doing is writing out the memory and then relaxing while you're doing the memory. There's a more involved one that I'm going to go over in another video that really needs to be done with a therapist. But this one right here, you could be able to try on your own and do this at home. And the reason I gave such a gap between the last PTSD video and this PTSD video is because hopefully you went and you built your safe space and you put your safety list together and you put down your safe people and all that other stuff. So that way you can start doing this hard work of remembering traumatic memories. So first things first, I'm going to give you two different relaxation techniques, and this has to really do with our responses in our body. So the first is when we're becoming dysregulated and we're starting to feel a lot of anxiety. One of the techniques is to lean back in a chair and stretch all the way backwards. And what that does, it relaxes a whole bunch of muscles, which makes it very, very difficult to stay tense and to stay where you're hyperventilating. When you lean back in a chair like that, all the way back and stretch all the way back, you're completely opening up your diaphragm and you have to breathe like that. So you can't be holding your breath, you can't be hyperventilating. There's also something else where you relax your pelvic floor. That one is really, really difficult for me to explain verbally. I just have a difficult time explaining it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a link to something that would be able to describe it by it being written out, and you can try it from that. It's just really difficult for me to describe. So now that we have those two additional coping things out of the way, what we're going to talk about is how to write your narrative. And what you're going to do is you're going to write out everything that you remember about the memory. What you want to do while you're writing this is to stay as relaxed as possible. That means that every time that your suds go up too high, that you step back and you remember to breathe, that you remember all your different grounding techniques, that you sit back in your chair and stretch, that you try that pelvic floor relaxation, that you do all these different exercises to make sure that your distress goes down. Because like I had said in the previous video, what I don't want you to do is re-traumatize yourself by remembering these memories. So what you're going to do is you're going to think about the event, and it's just going to be one event, and you're going to start that event, that memory. And you don't want to do your whole life. If you've had a bunch of trauma in your life, we're not going to do your whole life. That's too much. What we're going to do is we're going to do one traumatic memory, one traumatic event. And we're going to do that one traumatic event at a time. Like pure narrative therapy, you're going to write about your whole life, but we're doing exposure by writing a narrative, so it's slightly different. And I can go over narrative therapy in greater detail without the exposure on another video too. So this one right here, what we're doing is we're writing out this memory, and the best way to do this is where you start to write where the memory started. So the example that I'm going to use is I got bit by a dog. So my first part where I recognized that things were going badly was when the dog lunged at me and tried to bite me. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to write down all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the sensations in as much detail as possible. Now, this is going to be triggering. This is going to be very difficult, which is why you're going to take breaks and you're going to step back and you're going to do your relaxation and all that other stuff. You're going to write your whole narrative up until the point where you knew that you were safe. So for my dog narrative, it is going to be where I got picked up by the paramedics and I knew that I was safe because the dog was gone and I was going to be safe because the paramedics were taking care of me. So I'm going to write my whole narrative out up until that point. Now, there's two recommendations on doing this. When you're writing out your narrative, what you can first do is you can put it on a timeline. So that way you know the highlights of your story. And then after you write it on the timeline, you can write your whole narrative. The time to take for your timeline is maybe 10 minutes. You don't want to sit there and you don't want to do too much. Then what you're going to do is then you're going to write the narrative based on that timeline. The narrative, you don't want to spend all day on it. You don't want to spend too much time on it. You want to write as many details, as much as you possibly can, probably within about 10 minutes. What some experts have said, what works best is you divide that time up into 5-minute chunks. So you're going to do 5 minutes. You're going to get to halfway through your trauma, your traumatic memory. You're going to stop. You're going to take about 2-3 minutes to go ahead and do some relaxation exercises to reground yourself. And then you're going to spend the next 5 minutes being able to do the same thing where you write out the second half of that memory. Then what you're going to do after you go and you write out your whole memory, what you're then going to do is you're going to keep practicing relaxation exercises while you're reading your traumatic memory. What you're basically doing is you're teaching your body that there is nothing scary about that memory anymore. What you're doing is you're reducing the hyperarousal of your body while you're remembering those memories. This way that you're unlinking those physiological responses that your body has been giving every single time it remembers these memories. And so then what you're doing is you're associating this memory with being calm and relaxed. That's why it's so very, very important that you practice the relaxation exercises that I talked about in the other video first. That you learn to start correcting some of those hypervigilance and hyperarousal when you're remembering things. And this is all about being in control of your body, being able to understand that these are just your automatic nervous responses and how to manage them better. So that's this video. If you have any questions about narrative therapy or exposure therapy and what you should be doing with it, please leave a comment in the comment section. Hopefully this was helpful. Any feedback, any questions, like I said, leave them in the comment section. Also, if you like this, please subscribe and like and share. Hopefully this was helpful. And like I said in a previous video, this topic really needs to have a professional be able to be involved in it because it's very, very difficult. It's very, very painful. And there's a greater likelihood of you being re-traumatized while doing it if you're not working with somebody that knows what they're doing. So it's really, really important with PTSD that you work with somebody that knows what they're doing. But I also understand that's not always possible. So that's why I'm doing these itty bitty mini videos to kind of help somewhat until you can get to see a professional. So hopefully this helped a tiny bit. And like I said in the next video, I'm going to go over what to expect during therapy and what one of the interventions is for that. So once again, questions, concerns, leave them in the comment section. Otherwise, hopefully this was helpful. Thanks.